Auzubillahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Vessalatu vesselamu ala Resulina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmain. Assalamu alaikum ve rahmatullahi ve barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to another lesson, inshallah, from the Risale-i Nur, Treatise of Light. And we'll be reading from Asay Musa, fifth topic. As is described in a guide for youth, there is no doubt that youth will depart, it will change into old age and death as certainly as summer gives its place to autumn and winter, and the day changes into evening and night. So this is going to be a short lesson, but inshallah a very effective lesson from the guide for youth and Asay Musa. So there's no doubt that youth will go. If we don't die when we're young, eventually we're going to go, we're going to change into old age and eventually death. Just like summer gives way to autumn and winter, and the day changes from day into evening and night. All the revealed scriptures give the good news that if fleeting, transient youth is spent on good works, in chastity, and within the bounds of good conduct, it will gain for the person immortal youth. So, all the scriptures, what do they reveal? They reveal the good news. This fleeting youth, if it's spent on good works, salih amal, in chastity, in the halal sphere, and within the bounds of good conduct, what will it gain you? It would gain you immortal youth. So a lot of people want to stay young forever, right? You won't find many people that want to become old. So if you want eternal, immortal youth, and you want to turn that transient youth, the temporary youth, into an everlasting youth, then what should you be doing? Good works, in staying in chastity and in the bounds of good conduct. If, on the other hand, youth is spent on vice, just as murder resulting from a minute's anger leads to millions of minutes of imprisonment, so the unlawful pleasures of youth contain more pain than pleasure, quite apart from being called to account in the hereafter, and the torments of the grave, and the regrets arising from their passing, and sins, and the penalties suffered in this world. Every youth with sense will corroborate this from his own experience. If you spend your youth in the wrong way, just like it says, 1 minute of anger resulting in murder. So you just shot someone or killed someone because of that 1 minute of anger. That then leads you to millions and millions and millions of minutes inside where? Inside prison as a punishment. So just the same way, those unlawful, illicit, haram things that you indulge in, they are also going to create what? Torment in the grave for you, adhab al-qabr, and punishment, and you're going to be held accountable in the hereafter for these. And you're going to also feel regret from the passing of those so-called pleasures, and the penalties you're going to also suffer from this in this world, from those illicit things. Because think about it, everything that has been restricted from Allah by Allah is harmful to us anyway. Scientifically, it's proven that all of these things are harmful for us. So you don't just suffer in this world because of indulging in these illicit things, but also you get punished in the hereafter. And every youth with sense will corroborate this from his own experience. For example, the pains of jealousy, separation, and unreciprocated love transform the partial pleasure to be found in illicit love and poisonous honey. If you want to know how they end up in hospitals due to illnesses resulting from their misspent youth, and imprisoned due to their excesses, and in bars and dens of vice and the graveyard due to the distress arising from their unnourished hearts and spirits not performing their right functions, go and ask at the hospitals, prisons, bars and graveyards. So just the same way, he gives a good analogy here. Poisonous honey. All of these illicit things are poisonous honey. These things that have been forbidden by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have been forbidden for a reason. And these things end up, so they, poisonous honey, they taste nice, they feel nice at that current time. They're sweet, but inside is poison. So eventually they what? Destroy you, kill you. They kill your worldly life and your life in the hereafter. And he says, if you don't believe me, just go to the hospitals and look at the people there that are suffering from the misspent youth. Go and see the illnesses that they have received from that, from indulging in haram. Or, he says, go to the prisons and see the youth in there that are rotting away because of their excesses. Or, he says, go to the graveyards and see all of those youth that have died because of misspent youth and not obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not following Islam and not following the Quran and not following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. More than anything, you will hear the weeping and sighs of regret at the blows of youth have received as a penalty for abusing their youth and their excesses and illicit pleasures. What will you hear from the graveyards? You will hear those youth, the spirits talking, screaming out, shouting out, weeping and crying. And it's too late then, isn't it? You don't get a second chance in life. You only have one chance in this test, in this imtihan. Foremost, the Quran, with numerous of its verses and all the revealed scriptures and books, give the glad tidings that if spent within the bounds of moderation, youth is an agreeable divine bounty and sweet, powerful means to good works, which yields the fruits of shining, immortal youth in the hereafter. So the Quran, with all of its verses, with all of its scriptures, what is the Quran telling us? The word of Allah telling us? It's telling us if you spend your youth in the bounds of moderation, what's going to happen to you? Youth then becomes a great divine bounty. It becomes a ni'mat, a gift from Allah, sweet, pleasurable. And if you spend it in salih amal, good works, what is Allah going to give you then? He's going to then give you the fruits of you not indulging in the illicit, but staying in the licit sphere. He's going to give you immortal youth in the hereafter, in Jannah. Since the reality is this, and since the bounds of the licit are sufficient for enjoyment, this is a reality. And halal, the sphere of halal, the licit sphere, is sufficient for us. There's no need to enter into the illicit, to enter into haram. Allah has given us all the pleasures in this world, the clean and pure pleasures that we can indulge in, as long as they are allowed by Him. And since an hour of unlawful pleasure leads sometimes to a punishment for 1 or 10 years and even more imprisonment, surely it is absolutely necessary to spend the sweet bounty of youth chastely on the straight path as thanks for that bounty. So sometimes that unlawful pleasure, what does it lead you in this world? It leads you to punishment, sometimes tens of years or sometimes even life sentences, rotting away, spending all of your that valuable youth in the dungeons of those prison cells, destroying your youth when you should be actually using that youth to do good works, to please Allah, to perform worship, to be a servant of Allah. But instead, you're becoming a servant of the shaitan and the servant of your evil commanding soul. May Allah protect us from that. And may Allah, inshallah, make us all, especially the youth, the ones that spend it on good works and on ways of pleasing Allah. And by doing that, we'll gain immortal youth, inshallah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين لله تعالى الفاتحة.